Every once in a while we get a new card that has the coin flip mechanic, and it's severely underutilized in Yu-Gi-Oh! There really hasn't been a ton of direct coin flip support cards until now in Legendary Duelists. So in the Pegasus pack or whatever, we have a bunch of more coin flip cards. Well, this one isn't a coin flip, but it does support the archetype, and this is really cool. So this deck isn't super expensive, and it's obviously not super competitive because you have to rely on coin flips, but it does have some pretty powerful effects if you actually manage to flip a couple heads. And in today's video, I want to talk about the 4 new cards in the latest set, and also some support cards that you can play if you were looking to try out this deck. So first off, let's talk about their boss monster. So this guy is Desperado Barrel Dragon, and its effect is as follows. I'll put it up to the camera here so we can all sort of read it. If a face-up Dark Machine monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. So notice that that's by battle or card effect. So pretty much any single time that you have a Dark Machine that's destroyed, this guy comes out. And then once per turn during the battle phase, a quick effect, you can toss a coin 3 times, destroy face-up monsters on the field up to the number of heads. Then, if the result was 3 heads, draw 1 card. This card cannot attack until the turn this effect is activated. This card is sent to the graveyard. You can add 1 level 7 or lower monster that is a coin tossing effect from your deck to your hand. So there's a lot of things going on here. The special summon effect is really easy to activate. You can almost always get it out. That's no problem at all. I like seeing boss monsters that have the self-summoning effects, and then it pairs really nicely with the quick effect, because in most cases you'll be summoning this thing on your opponent's turn, and then you're flipping 3 coins, and you can potentially wipe your opponent's entire board. And we're going to see in a second that really those coin tosses get even better when you have their trap card out, which can sort of increase either damage or the destruction effects of any coin toss effect, which makes this card pretty good. Now, I will say the searching effect is a little underwhelming. Probably the best thing you can search with this card is Twin Barrel Dragon. You could technically search regular Barrel Dragon, and there are some other cards that you can search, but really Twin Barrel Dragon, I think, is what you're going to play. It has a lot of synergy with some other stuff I'm going to talk about in this video. So if you want to play this deck, probably want to pick up Twin Barrel Dragons. I really wish this card, I mean, maybe it'd be too overpowered if it just searched any Dark Machine monster, but one thing that you really want to note here is that none of the effects on this card are hard once per turns. So if you have multiples in hand, you can special summon them. You can do the search effect multiple times. You can do the flip effect multiple times. As long as you have different copies, you're all good there. So this card, 10 out of 10. It's really good boss support for a theme that really hasn't seen support in a while. Next up, we have the Launcher Spider retrain. Now, one of the reasons I like this card so much is because Launcher Spider was actually my first Yu-Gi-Oh card ever, so I'm super excited. This guy looks super cool. So yeah, this is BM4 Blast Spider. Let's bring his effect up there. Once per turn, you can target 1 Dark Machine monster you control and 1 face-up card your opponent controls, destroy them. So it's basically like a Scrap Dragon in that regard. That's pretty cool. If a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine destroys an opponent's monsters by battle or card effect and sends to the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of one of those monsters destroyed and sent to the graveyard. And you can only use that effect once per turn. So this guy basically has sort of this Scrap Dragon effect for clearing boards, and also this extra damage effect, which is really cool because one of the things that you'll want to be doing with this deck is a lot of damage. It's not really a deck that gains a ton of card advantage. It has a lot of destruction effects, and you'll want to leverage those as much as possible. But in general, you're just trying to maybe get a few coin toss effects in the first couple turns and then just do a ton of damage to your opponent, even using cards like Limiter Removal, which did come in the set that these came in as well. But yeah, so the only real downside of this card that I can see is that it doesn't have a coin flip effect. If you could search this card with Desperado, it would be incredible, but you can't do that, so that kind of sucks. That's the major downside. I really thought this card would have had a coin flip effect so you could search it. But yeah, so Scrap Dragon effect is cool, and it combos really nicely with the spell card, so let's talk about that. We have Heavy Metal Raiders, so not just regular Metal Raiders, the Heavy Metal Raiders. This card is really, really cool. I like this a lot. The first time each Dark Machine monster you control will be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed, and if you took battle damage from the battle, it gains that much attack after damage calculation, and keeps that attack gain as long as this card is on the field. So that's really good. It keeps your guys up, and it gives them more attack points. So like pretty much anytime they battle, they sort of gain the attack of the opponent's monster. What's really cool, well, they gain the difference. So what's cool about this card though is that it protects each of your guys once. So if you have like 5 monsters, they're each protected one time, which is really great. It's not just the first guy that you have, it's the first attack of each of them. Once per turn, if a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine monster destroys a cards on the field by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Dark Machine monster from your hand. So part of the reason this card is so good is not so much on that first effect, but it's on that second effect. So if you have this guy out, the Blast Spider, you can destroy itself, an opponent's monster, and then when it goes to the graveyard, you could activate Heavy Metal Raiders to bring a guy out of your hand. Now that doesn't necessarily have to be Desperado, that can just be any Dark Machine monster, which is really cool. It opens up some options, and that sort of does incentivize you to play the original Barrel Dragon, because that card does have some high stats, and if you're just trying to OTK your opponent, I could see it working. But yeah, so this card has protection effect, has a special summoning effect. It's really great. I like it a lot, and it looks really cool. It has all the old sort of machine monsters that Bandit Keith played. You have Slot Machine, you have the first Pendulum monster, Launcher Spiders there in the background. You got all sorts of stuff going on there, Blast Spheres up in the corner. So I like that card a lot. Its artwork is really cool. Reminds me of sort of Lost World with all the dinosaur cards from way back in the day. This one has all those old machine monsters. Now the last card is Proton Blast, and this card, while it is a trap card, and that kind of is a downer, this is probably one of the most important cards for the new stuff, only because this makes it so that as long as you're flipping some heads sometimes, you're getting a huge bonus. So this card has 3 effects. Well, I'll just read it for you. Once per turn, and if an activated card effect tosses coins, immediately after it resolves, apply the following effects depending on the number of heads. Also note that there's no colon or semicolon, so this doesn't actually activate, it just resolves. Kind of like the Trickstar monsters, they don't activate their burn effects, they just happen. So you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent if you got 1 heads. If you got 2 or more, you can destroy 1 card your opponent's controls. And then if it's 3 or more, you get to look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card from their hand. So that's absolutely insane. And then also, if this card is in the graveyard, when an effect is activated that tosses a coin 2 or more times, you can banish this card from the graveyard. Treat all results as heads. So that's pretty nutty. You can kind of see how this card is so powerful. Anytime that you have it in the graveyard with a Desperado and you summon the Desperado and use its effect, you can banish this, and then you automatically get that 3 heads effect. So that means you'll be destroying 3 cards and drawing a card. It's pretty crazy, but also this card just combos with itself. Once again, it's not a hard once per turn, it's just a soft once per turn, which basically means if you have multiple copies of this card, they all activate. So that's pretty nutty, and it builds up a lot of momentum. You can see there's some situations in this deck in particular where you just have tons of cards at your disposal and you're blowing up a bunch of your opponent's cards, and I think that's awesome. So what are some things that you would play with this deck? Well, the number one thing that I thought about was Black Salvo. Black Salvo is one of my favorite tuners in the game, and it happens to synergize really well with a lot of the cards in this deck. It revives a level 4 Dark Machine monster from the graveyard when you summon it, so you can bring back the Blast Spider, you can bring back Twin Barrel Dragon, and then you can instantly make a level 7 Synchro monster. That's really great. So I think Black Salvo is like a staple 3 of in this deck. I mean, I always try to play that card in like every single deck possible. The other cool thing about Black Salvo is that it does in fact make Ancient Fairy Dragon, and you can then search Heavy Metal Raiders by destroying your opponent's field spell. So that's pretty cool. So that's one thing you can play. I think the Twin Barrel Dragon is an absolute necessity. I think regular Barrel Dragon could be played. I think limiter removal could be played, and I think maybe if you want to get really crazy, you could even play Karakuris in this deck. They are all machine monsters, and Karakuris really revolve around doing a lot of damage to your opponent, getting an OTK in. It's great. I would make sure to play Cliffort Genius. That Link monster is good. This isn't necessarily an extra deck depending on how you build it, but if you do want to go a more extra deck oriented route, I would definitely play Cliffort Genius. And then lastly, and I don't usually say this because I'm not a huge fan of this card, but I actually think Supply Squad fits in this deck quite well. Blast Spider in particular really synergizes really good with Supply Squad, and you could see a situation in this deck where you do struggle to sort of gain card advantage, so Supply Squad could help out a lot. In that same vein, I would definitely play Pot of Desires in this deck. You really don't have any Garnets. You'd just be playing a lot of 3-ofs of the coin flip guys, so Pot of Desires can help you sort of draw the rest of your good cards. You really want to have access to Proton Blast, and maybe it's crazy. Maybe it's crazy, but if you somehow can find a way to make Cypher Lord Omega in this graveyard, you could put back the Proton Blast over and over again and pretty much guarantee you have infinite access to flipping all 3 coins as heads. That might be a little out there, but you could potentially play like zombies or something. But yeah, that's pretty much my analysis on all these new coin flip cards. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I just really wanted to show off these new cards since I opened so many boxes, and these were the ones that I was probably second most excited about, right behind the new Crystal Beast cards. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.